Welcome to the road to 1 million US dollars. Let's get right into the Bitcoin chart for today. In this video today, guys, I'm going to start on the 1 day time frame and then move on to lower and lower time frames. So let's dive right into it. Currently, Bitcoin is trading inside this symmetrical triangle pattern. And as you can see by these bars above and below, we do have price targets to the upside and to the downside. Now, does this mean that I'm telling you that it can go up or down? No, of course not. Let me explain how this actually works. Basically, a symmetrical triangle pattern can actually set up a price target to the upside and to the downside, but this depends on which side it actually breaks out of. So notice how right here we are right on top of this ascending line of support sitting at about 103.7k. If we end up breaking down below here with confirmed daily candle closes, possibly even some kind of breakout, retest, resumption type structure, well, then it would set up these price targets. And I've actually measured a conservative target, which would be at about 95k if we break to the downside. And the more ambitious target is actually all the way down at 87k in the Bitcoin price. However, we can still just bounce to the upside from here and actually get a bullish breakout to the upside, which would be if we get confirmed candle closes above 110k. So for example, again, we could get some kind of breakout or retest resumption, which would set up a conservative target of about 120,000 and an ambitious target of 128k in the Bitcoin price. As I always say with these symmetrical triangle patterns, we should also keep in mind that fake outs are quite likely for this type of pattern, because the reason we even have a symmetrical triangle pattern in the first place is because currently we are seeing some indecision in the market, and that is actually what is causing the price to basically chop sideways here. So of course that also means that it is more likely that we could get some kind of fake out and then actually end up reversing from there, or of course the opposite could also be true. Besides that, let's take a look at some support and resistance on this daily time frame. Recently, we broke below this big level of previous support, sitting from 107 all the way down to 105k. So we broke down below, retested it here on the daily time frame, and so far we are seeing a bit of a rejection. And in terms of a big level of support to the downside, that is sitting from 103k all the way down to 101.5k in the Bitcoin price. Lastly, for this daily time frame, we should also take a look at the RSI momentum indicator, because this is still just in a downtrend. So for now, we are trading around this 50 level. However, the lower we end up dipping down below, the more bearish the momentum is actually going to become. Besides that, especially you guys who have followed me for a long time, we have seen these downtrends in the RSI over and over again. And usually if we get some kind of entry when we are actually breaking this downtrend, it tends to lead to some nice price action after that. For example, recently we also had a downtrend in the RSI. Then here we ended up breaking that downtrend. And as you can see in the price action, that is right around the same time when we actually broke the downtrend on the daily time frame. So this obviously led to a huge move to the upside for Bitcoin, and that is why I am keeping an eye on these downtrends in the RSI. Next, let's take a quick look at the short term for Bitcoin. Right now, we're still holding above this 0.236 Fibonacci level, which is setting at about 103.1k. In the case that we do end up breaking down below here, guys, the next level of support is going to be at 101.4k. Moving on to this 2-hour time frame, we do have a decently long-term trend line for this low time frame at least. And as you can see in the price action, this is providing some very, very strong resistance, although it is very likely going to resolve here sometime soon. We are either going to break above this level of resistance, currently sitting at 105k, or we're going to break down below this 103.7k level. And of course, if we break this, likely a move to the upside. If we break this, likely a continuation to the downside. For the downside, I already showed you the lower time frame levels of support. However, if we do end up breaking this to the upside, let me go to the 1-hour time frame to actually show you some levels of resistance. As you can see in yesterday's video, we had this W pattern here. This was because at the time we were trading right around here. And basically, if we ended up breaking this neckline at about 105.5K, then it would have set up this price target at 107.6K, roughly speaking. However, of course, we did not end up breaking out to the upside. Therefore, this W pattern has already invalidated before it even broke out to the upside. So I guess it was just something that we kept an eye on and it didn't end up playing out. Therefore, in terms of resistance, we do have this resistance at about 105.5K, above that 106.1K, and above that it is already sitting at 106.8K. Next, taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, first of all on this 3-day time frame. And before I dive into this analysis, guys, if you're not familiar with this chart, typically the Bitcoin price gets attracted to where there is the most liquidity on this chart, so where you see the most yellow areas. And what you can see right now on the lower time frames is that most of the liquidity is to the downside, although do keep in mind that we do have a decent amount of liquidity sitting, for example, at 106K all the way up to 106.5K, and that big pocket of liquidity to the downside is sitting at 103.2K. Although the 3-day time frame doesn't always tell the full story, we should also take a look at the higher time frames to get some more confluence. And here you can see a great example of this, because here you can see that big level of liquidity that we looked at on the lower time frames. But at the same time, most of the liquidity on the 1 month time frame is actually to the upside, sitting at 110K. Therefore, this is basically the same as when you just do your analysis on the lower and the higher time frames. Right now, a move to the downside is technically looking more likely due to that liquidity to the downside in the short term, but at the same time, there is still massive liquidity to the upside, as you can see on the 1 month, as well as even that 1 year time frame. So that does make it more likely that we are actually getting another move to the upside at some point. Although, of course, I cannot tell you exactly when that is going to be and how deep this move to the downside is going to become before we end up sweeping this level of liquidity. Although I do think it is very, very likely that we are going to take out this level of liquidity at some point. So hopefully for you guys that are new here, this also explains why we use different methods of analysis, like for example, the liquidation heat maps, but we also have to take a look at the technical factors to actually have specific price targets and look at support and resistance, stuff like that, to get a better idea of what we should be expecting. Lastly, let's take a quick look at the Bitcoin ETF flow tables. Yesterday, we saw another massive inflow into the Bitcoin ETFs. So overall, the Bitcoin ETFs are having an upwards pressuring effect on the Bitcoin price. Also, before I close off today, guys, I got nominated to this WAIB Summit KOL Award. So if you guys want to help me out, then I'm going to leave a link in the pinned comment below this video where you guys can basically vote for me to win this. So yeah, if you feel generous, then yeah, I would really appreciate it. Either way, as I said in this message here as well, if you do end up voting or not, thank you guys for watching the videos and being a part of this community. I really appreciate it, and I always enjoy reading your comments. So this has been today's market update. Thank you very much for watching once again, and I will see you tomorrow in the next one.